Hi, everyone. This is Pastor Drew from Grace United Methodist Church. I'm coming to you real quick just to say thank you for all of the ways that you are in ministry right now. This is an unprecedented time as we're living in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic, and you have been an amazing church, and I have been proud to be your pastor over the last few weeks. The church council, the staff, and the pastors have together discerned four main things that we want to remain dedicated to during this crisis. I mentioned them in an email and once on a Sunday morning on our live stream, but I want to mention them one more time. During this time, we are dedicated to staying connected. That's the first thing. And you've been doing that. You've been calling each other, checking in with your pastors and staff. The staff have been checking in with their ministry areas. Everybody's been doing what they can to stay connected, whether that's online or through phone calls or through the mail. But it's been amazing to see how God has been faithful and we have been able to stay connected so far. The second thing that we're dedicated to is reaching out. You've already been reaching out to the church with your ideas of how we can help. And the church is in the process of reaching out to a few major community partners to see how we can be of service. So those community partners that we're reaching out specifically to are Georgetown South, that our neighbors, also Serve and Northern Virginia Family Services, also our neighbors, the hospital community and other care facilities that are in our neighborhood, and we're also reaching out to GCLC, our preschool. Grace Children's Learning Center has had to close down for the year, and we're trying to find ways for us to support the staff and families who have been impacted by this in such a big way. So we are reaching out, and you are reaching out. Thank you for that. The third thing that we're dedicated to is remaining in ministry. Our building is closed, but it's clear that our ministry continues. And so we are dedicated to continuing to be the church because we believe that the faith that the church holds up day after day, year after year, is for times like this, for us to remain faithful to our neighbors, to one another, and to God. So we are dedicated to remaining in ministry. And one of the things that you're doing to help that is to continue to remain faithful in your giving to God for the ministry of the church. You've been giving online, you've been mailing in checks. Some of you have been dedicating gifts specifically to the coronavirus response, and that's been amazing. We are doing okay, but we need you to remain faithful. Remain faithful in the ways that you are, and we are hoping to continue to find new givers in this time. We already have. There have been new people that have been joining us online or hearing about what the church was up to and have wanted to support us. So we thank you for your faithfulness and for God's faithfulness, and we will depend on that to remain in ministry going forward. The last thing that we're really dedicated to is reminding one another at all times and in every way possible that God's grace is sufficient. That God's grace is sufficient for this and every trial. I don't know anybody who hasn't felt some sort of impact by this. Everybody's dealing with added stress and anxiety, confused feelings, or sickness and overwork. Everybody's feeling something. No matter what you're feeling, remember, God's grace is sufficient. One last bit of good news is that in the midst of all of this, believe it or not, the church continues to grow. Our online viewership has been growing. We've been hearing from folks who have joined us since we've been online and have said that they plan to join us in person when they can and to become members here. And one thing we didn't get to do in worship is celebrate the fact that we have been given a certificate of excellence as Grace United Methodist Church for our fruitful ministry in 2019, excuse me. But that is our certificate of excellence comes to us from the district office for increasing in average worship attendance and professions of faith in the last year. So God has been faithful to this church. You have been faithful to this church, and we trust that God will remain faithful and that ultimately this is a time for the church to shine, and specifically to shine the light of Christ and to remind the world that God's grace is sufficient even for a time such as this. We look forward to being together in person as soon as possible, but in the meantime, we trust in the tie that binds, the grace of God through Jesus Christ, by the power of the Holy Spirit, which unites us, keeps us connected, holds us up, and will lead us on. God bless you. See you soon.